In a quiet, family-friendly neighborhood filled with cheerful homes, children played in yards while neighbors waved to one another during evening strolls. The sun often dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow across well-manicured lawns. Everyone seemed to know each other, sharing occasional barbecues and holiday celebrations. It was a place where community matters were taken seriously. Among these residents was Karen, who had lived in the neighborhood for years. She took pride in her home and wanted to see her community remain a safe and welcoming environment. To Karen, this meant keeping up appearances and maintaining certain standards. She didn't hesitate to voice her concerns whenever she felt something disrupted the neighborhood's harmony. Recently, however, she had become increasingly bothered by a neighbor's pickup truck parked near the street. It stood out to her as an unwelcome sight amidst rows of colorful flowers and neatly parked family vehicles. "That truck doesn't belong here," she grumbled during dinner conversations with her husband. Karen felt it undermined the family-friendly atmosphere she adored. Feeling the pressure of her convictions weigh heavily on her, she decided to take action. Believing it was her duty to uphold community values, she called a private towing company to report the vehicle. "This will set things right," she thought confidently as they promised swift service. Little did she know that this decision would spark events that would soon draw attention from not just her neighborhood but also many others outside its borders. In her pursuit of community standards, Karen's actions were about to lead her on an unexpected journey filled with lessons and revelations about compassion and understanding within their tight-knit community. Karen's frustration grew day by day as she glanced out her window at the pickup truck parked across from her house. While other vehicles in the neighborhood were neat and tidy, this truck seemed to stand out like a sore thumb. Its faded paint and cluttered bed filled with tools made it look unkempt, and Karen couldn't shake the feeling that it undermined the image of their perfect neighborhood. "That truck doesn't belong here," she muttered to herself, frowning as she sipped her morning coffee. She imagined families driving through their lovely streets and how the sight of that truck might affect them. What kind of message did it send to new neighbors or visitors? To Karen, it signaled a decline in the standards she believed were so important for a welcoming community. She recalled how everyone worked together to keep their street looking nice, from planting flowers in front yards to hanging festive decorations during holidays. With each passing day, her annoyance turned into determination. She felt it was her responsibility to act for the good of all their families. After talking about it with friends at the local park, they seemed supportive but hesitant to get involved directly. So, Karen decided to take matters into her own hands. In a moment of conviction, she picked up her phone and called a private towing company, clearly stating her concerns about the pickup truck. "It has no place here," she insisted as the tow operator agreed to respond quickly. Little did Karen know, this decision would spark events that would soon challenge her views about community and kindness in ways she never expected. With her mind made up, Karen took a deep breath and reached for her phone. She felt a mix of apprehension and resolve. The decision to call a towing company was not one she took lightly, but she believed it was necessary to restore what she envisioned as the neighborhood's pristine image. As she dialed the number, she could almost hear the supportive words of her friends echoing in her mind, encouraging her to take a stand. When the operator answered, Karen's voice was steady yet firm. "I need to report an abandoned vehicle," she said, trying to convey urgency without sounding overly dramatic. "It's a pickup truck parked on my street. It's been there for too long and looks really messy." She described the truck in detail, hoping the towing company would understand how much it bothered her. The operator assured her that they would send someone out right away. As she hung up, a small sense of satisfaction washed over her. This is for the greater good, Karen thought, feeling empowered by her choice to act on behalf of her community. However, as she peered out the window later, watching the tow truck pull up to the offending vehicle, anxiety began to creep in. What if her neighbors didn't agree with her decision? Still determined to see it through, she watched intently as the tow truck driver assessed the situation. Little did Karen know that this moment would soon escalate beyond her expectations. The tension in the air hinted at a confrontation brewing, one that would challenge not only her actions but also her understanding of community and compassion. As the tow truck pulled into the neighborhood, the atmosphere changed dramatically. The rumble of the engine echoed along the street, turning heads and sparking curiosity among residents. Karen watched from her window, her heart pounding as she saw the driver step out. Clad in a bright orange vest, he looked ready for business, but what lay ahead filled Karen with a mix of excitement and fear. Neighbors began to gather on porches and sidewalks, exchanging glances and whispers. The tension hung in the air like a thick fog, the kind that hinted at trouble brewing. Kids playing outside paused their games, intrigued by the unfolding scene. Karen couldn't help but feel that all eyes were on her. This was her moment of truth. The tow truck driver moved purposefully toward the pickup truck. With practiced ease, he approached the vehicle, examining its condition before getting to work. The sound of metal clinking as he set up the hooks was sharp against the stillness, drawing gasps from onlookers who could already sense a confrontation looming. Karen held her breath, hoping that everything would go smoothly. But just as the driver began to hook up the truck, a neighbor stepped forward from the crowd, arms crossed and brows furrowed. It was clear they had come to defend the vehicle. "Wait! That truck belongs to a disabled veteran," they shouted. The commotion spread like wildfire, drawing even more attention from curious neighbors. In that moment, Karen's heart sank as she realized this situation was spiraling out of control. What had begun as her attempt to uphold community standards was quickly transforming into a public spectacle, one that would soon reveal truths about kindness and empathy she had not anticipated. Just as the tow truck driver was about to secure the pickup truck, a voice called out from the gathering crowd. "Wait! Stop!" It belonged to Tom, a well-respected neighbor known for his kindness and willingness to help others. He rushed forward, his face a mixture of urgency and concern. The crowd parted for him, and Karen felt a wave of dread wash over her. Tom approached the driver and pointed toward the truck. "That vehicle isn't just any old pickup," he explained, his voice steady but firm. "It belongs to Mike, our neighbor who is a disabled veteran. He has special plates that allow him to park here." He gestured to the license plates on the truck, which clearly displayed the veteran designation. Karen's heart raced as Tom continued speaking. "Moreover," he added, "there's legal documentation on the dashboard. Mike has permission to park here due to his disability." The crowd fell silent, their earlier curiosity replaced by an understanding of the situation's gravity. Tom turned to Karen, compassion in his eyes. "You didn't know, did you?" he asked gently. Feeling exposed and embarrassed, Karen shook her head. She hadn't considered that there might be more to the story than what she saw from her window. As Tom reached into the truck and retrieved the documents, showing them to the tow truck driver, Karen's mind raced with questions about her actions. The tension in the air shifted as people began to murmur in disbelief that she had called for a tow without knowing the full circumstances. In that moment, Karen realized she had misjudged not only the situation but also her neighbor's understanding of community support and compassion. As the confrontation unfolded, a bystander named Lisa stood nearby, her phone in hand. Intrigued by the unusual scene, she began recording the moments that were rapidly turning into a heated discussion. The sight of Tom passionately defending Mike's truck captured not just the words exchanged, but also the palpable tension in the air. With every voice that joined in, from supportive neighbors to skeptics questioning Karen's actions, Lisa sensed the potential impact of what she was filming. Within hours of posting the video online, it began to circulate far beyond their small neighborhood. Comments flooded in from people both local and distant, reacting to Karen's decision and Tom's heartfelt intervention. Some viewers expressed outrage at Karen's actions without knowing the full context, while others praised Tom for standing up for a fellow community member. The video sparked discussions about empathy and understanding within neighborhoods everywhere. Those who saw it felt compelled to share their opinions on social media platforms, turning a moment that started as a local dispute into a viral sensation. Hashtags like #SupportOurVeterans and #CommunityMatters began trending as more and more people weighed in on the situation. Meanwhile, Karen watched helplessly as her phone buzzed with notifications. Her friends were sending links to articles about the incident, some with headlines that painted her in an unflattering light as the neighbor who called for a tow. With every new view and reaction, she felt the weight of her actions settle heavily upon her shoulders. As she grappled with mounting regret, she could hardly imagine how this viral moment would impact not only her reputation but also her relationships with those around her, especially with Mike and her fellow neighbors who now saw her differently. The fallout from the viral video rippled through the neighborhood, but it wasn't long before the Homeowners Association, HOA, took notice of Karen's actions. They convened an emergency meeting to discuss the situation, prompted by numerous complaints from residents who felt her decision to call for a tow was an overreach of authority. The HOA prided itself on maintaining harmony and cooperation among neighbors, and this incident presented a challenge to those values. After deliberation, the HOA decided to issue a formal notice to Karen, citing her unauthorized enforcement of parking regulations as a breach of community guidelines. In their letter, they detailed their concerns about how her actions not only disrupted the neighborhood's peace but also led to public embarrassment for both Mike, the veteran, and herself. The fine they levied was meant to serve as a lesson about accountability within their tight-knit community. When Karen received the letter, a wave of disbelief washed over her. She felt crushed under the weight of consequences she had never anticipated. "I didn't think calling the towing company would lead to this," she said softly, reflecting on how her desire to uphold standards had spiraled out of control. This reprimand from the HOA marked a turning point for Karen. It prompted her to reassess not just her actions but also her relationship with her neighbors. As word spread about the fine, many residents voiced their support for Mike and disappointment in Karen, further isolating her in what had once been a friendly community. The experience forced Karen to confront her motives and rethink what it truly meant to be a good neighbor, igniting a journey toward understanding and reconciliation that she hadn't expected. In the days following the incident, the neighborhood transformed into a hub of support for Mike, the disabled veteran. Word spread quickly about what had happened, and neighbors felt compelled to show their appreciation for his service. It started with small gestures, families placing handmade cards on his porch, expressing gratitude and support. "Thank you for your service," read one brightly colored card, decorated with stick figure drawings of hearts and stars. As the community rallied around him, the flowers began to arrive. Neighbors brought bouquets of vibrant daisies, sunflowers, and lilies, each one representing a gesture of solidarity. Mike's front yard soon became a beautiful display of color and kindness, with every bloom serving as a reminder that he was not alone. Children even contributed by crafting flower pots in art class at school, which their parents happily delivered to Mike's doorstep. The phone calls and messages poured in as well. Local news outlets picked up the story, featuring interviews with residents who spoke passionately about how important it was to stand by someone who had served their country. Social media campaigns emerged, celebrating Mike's contributions and promoting unity within the neighborhood. This overwhelming wave of support caught Karen off guard. She was taken aback by how quickly her neighbors had come together for Mike while she felt isolated by her earlier actions. The compassion they showed toward him highlighted her own misjudgment and served as a powerful lesson in humility. As Mike received flowers and heartfelt messages from every corner of the neighborhood, it became clear that the community valued empathy above all else. Amidst this outpouring of love, Karen began to understand that true community spirit meant lifting each other up in times of need, something she hoped to embrace moving forward. As the dust settled from the whirlwind of events, the neighborhood began to emerge stronger and more united. The initial tensions surrounding Karen's actions transitioned into meaningful conversations about understanding and compassion. Neighbors who once exchanged only casual greetings now found themselves deep in discussions about what it truly means to live in a community, one that supports its members through both good times and challenging moments. The incident served as a catalyst for reflection among all residents. Many came to understand that it's easy to jump to conclusions based on appearances, a mistake that everyone could find themselves making at some point. They realized the importance of seeking out the full story and viewing situations through the lens of empathy before taking action. This lesson resonated particularly with Karen, who began attending neighborhood meetings to actively engage with her neighbors and learn more about their lives beyond her own perceptions. In the weeks that followed, Mike felt overwhelmed yet grateful by the outpouring of support he received. Friendly visits turned into new friendships as families pledged to stand together in solidarity, ensuring that each person felt valued within their community. The flowers and cards on his doorstep became symbols of unity rather than simple gestures. As Karen watched this transformation unfold, she recognized the beauty in coming together after hardship. She began to embrace her role not just as a concerned neighbor but as a willing participant in building community spirit. Through moments of misunderstanding, they discovered an underlying truth, that compassion and connection are vital threads weaving through the fabric of their neighborhood, forming bonds that could weather any storm.